All right. Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday afternoon. It is 4:30 just outside of Chicago. It is a warm Wednesday afternoon here in the area, and it is time for office hours. As you can see today, I am flying solo. My partner in crime, Johan, is off at the Workplace Ninja Summit, cramming his brain full of a lot of new information this week. So I'm really looking forward to having him back with us next week to talk a little bit about how the conference went. I'm sure many of you have been following along on Twitter and LinkedIn and everything this week, just to see what's going on. And there is some cool stuff coming out of the conference, it looks like. So thanks everybody who's joining us today. I'm going to start off just like normal with a few things that I've come across in the community, a couple of announcements, and then we'll hop into a little bit of Q&A and see what we can come up with today. So I am going to share my screen here. Let's see if I can manage through this. All right, and we need to change that. So far, so good, I think. So first thing that I wanted to bring up, I saw earlier this afternoon, Patch My PC is hosting a webinar next Wednesday on log troubleshooting in Intune. A lot of different logs that we need to look at in Intune, just like we've had to in the past with ConfigMgr and Windows Update and Windows itself. So this should be, like all of their webinars, should be a pretty great event, I think. Couple of things that it looks like they're going to focus on here. Patch My PC and how it will communicate with your tenant. So we've looked at this a little bit before. You'll actually see on the Intune side a lot of audit logs that show Patch My PC adding applications, modifying applications, removing applications as updates come through. And then a little bit about client logs on the Intune Management Extension service here. We also talked a little bit about that last week, I believe, that's changed recently with the latest service release of Intune, where Win32 apps are actually split off into their own log now, which is a fantastic improvement. But it looks like they're going to talk through this a little bit next week. So encourage you, if you get the time here, go ahead and join this webinar live. Typically, I want to say 24 to 48 hours after the webinar, they will also post them as well, the recordings. But fantastic opportunity here to join the folks at Patch My PC and talk about logging a little bit. The next thing that I came across that got shared quite a bit is, first, it's a blog post from Michael Niehaus that cumulative updates are coming during out-of-box experience, and at the moment, we will be getting them no matter what. So coming up here soon for Windows 11 22H2 and above. Essentially what happens here is when an MDM enrolled device on one of those versions of Windows 11 goes ahead and enrolls, at the end of the out-of-box experience, updates are going to get installed. And there are a couple of things here in the summary that Michael has listed out here, that devices are going to reboot after that update install, and users will have to sign in again because the credentials are not saved as part of that reboot. So a couple of things to note there. So I appreciate Michael's write-up on this, very succinct. Right now, there are no enterprise controls to block that if you want. I think there's seems to be a consensus that everyone's generally happy that we are actually getting updates automatically at the beginning of the device lifecycle, but not having control, something to note for sure. I did also want to share, and Michael links it here in his blog post as well, Microsoft's official announcement on this, that these changes are coming down the pipe. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to our links for this evening. Michael also posted something else around another recent change that we heard about. So with Windows 11 24H2, the Defender for Endpoint agent is not going to be installed as it normally would for prior versions of Windows 11. What that means is the Windows Defender for Endpoint agent was typically installed by default on all flavors of Windows 11. And so it was very easy to onboard devices into MDE if you're using that for your organization. But that's now changing. So if you have a device that has Windows 11 Home and is upgraded to Pro or then later Enterprise, that Sense client will not be installed, and you're going to have to deal with that in some way. One of the ways that Michael is dealing with that here is his Autopilot branding package that he's had out there for some time. If you apply that, it's going to go ahead and install the Sense client. There's a couple of scenarios here where Michael calls out that we may have to worry about this a little bit more than we thought. For example, if an OEM actually applies a Windows 11 home image and then upgrades it as part of their process before shipping it out to you as the admin or an organization or the end user, that would be the same scenario where the device started out with Windows Home and will not have that Sense client installed by default. So definitely something to keep in mind there if you're using MDE in your organization. And lastly, I just came across this afternoon another post from Microsoft where there are some new alerts that are being added for Windows updates in Intune. So basically some new alerts for when update progress is not being populated or not being reported from a client up to Intune reports. So there are a couple of alerts that they spell out here. Device diagnostics data not received and minimum OS build not met. And throughout this blog post as well, they give a good description of where these alerts will show up and how they'll integrate into the reporting that we have in Intune, as well as the monitor functions here. Since we're talking about Windows updates, you're going to see that in the Windows Update node here. And a couple of other reports like Windows Update for Business reports will actually show missing devices, including, as we can see here, those new alerts that we just talked about at the top of this blog post. So as always, we're happy to see these improvements in reporting. And so I will share this blog post as well so that you can review and be prepared for utilizing these updates. All right. That's about what I had for news today. And it looks like while we were going over news, let's hop into some Q&A here, see what we've got going on. So I've got a question here from Siva. Siva, good to have you back here. It's been a while since we've seen you. So happy to have you back with us. And so the question here is, what is Windows subscription-based activation? Is that a replacement for KMS? Can I share some insight on that? Notice a bunch of devices in our environment become Pro, and I'm forcing them to activate with the generic license to become KMS clients. And a follow-up comment here. Oh, that's a different question. So we'll hop on that in a second. So I don't know that I'd quite say a replacement. Others may call that a replacement, but more of an alternative method right now of activating devices. KMS absolutely can still be used so long as devices are communicating with the KMS server on your corporate network. That's still a common method in my experience of activating devices. But subscription-based activation would be when you have, at a high level, when you assign a Windows 10 and 11 E3 or E5 license, let's say, to a user, the user goes through and enrolls the device. They have that license, and it is going to activate Windows based on that license. Now, over the past year or so, there has been a lot of talk around subscription-based activation issues where devices have downgraded to Pro and then they need to be upgraded again to Enterprise, and that sort of thing. But essentially, that's what the subscription-based activation is. So I hope that helps. But if you have any follow-up questions, please let me know. And then the second question here, I remember you mentioned in the past about the task sequence or script to perform all the validation for the Windows 10 22H2 to Windows 11 23H2 in-place readiness. Can I mention that? So partially, let's see if this is what I want here. Go over to my ConfigMgr server and pop this open. Oh. Let's hold off on that. I forgot that I installed a hotfix just last night. Clearly did not finish my upgrade. But that's okay. For what we're looking at, that should not be a problem. So I've got two things that I'll share here, Siva. First of all, if we go into our task sequences, and let's see if I've got an in-place upgrade right here that we can look at. All right, so by default, here are some of the checks that happen. These are just sort of the basic checks. We'll check for minimum memory, minimum processor speed, disk space, current OS, and then we have a few other options that we can add into this. There we go. Minimum OS version, make sure that we're plugged into power and not on battery, make sure that we have a network adapter, TPM 2.0 or above is enabled. So we have some options right out of the box. But Johan also wrote a blog post quite a while ago, and has actually updated it a couple of times. But if we go here on the deployment research blog, you'll see a couple of other, and this was back before we had all of those. The in-place upgrade task sequence actually looked a little bit different. So this has improved over the years. But he has some additional options in here for downloading drivers, for example. Make sure we have the correct drivers on our device before we go through an in-place upgrade. And so I suspect that from a scripting standpoint or improvement standpoint, this might have been what he has talked about here in the past. So I will make sure to share this as well. But there's some good things, as you can see, just right out of the box to get you started these days on some basic checks. All right. Got a question here about best practices or thoughts on Windows Hello for Business via account protection policy in Intune. Any preference for defining those settings under device scope or user scope? Assign the policy to a user group or a device group. So, great question. I've been diving into Windows Hello for Business a bit more over the last couple of weeks here. And so for this, let me just browse to the settings that we're talking about here. So if we go and create a policy and account protection here, let's just give it a name. And here we have all of our configuration settings. So this is another area that we can configure Windows Hello for Business for our users. We have all of our standard Windows Hello for Business settings available here, what type of settings we want available, the maximum and minimum pin length, that sort of thing. As you can see in here, there are a couple of different categories. We have our device scoped settings, and we have our user scoped settings. So what I've been seeing broadly is, let me compare this to another section here. Where do I want to go? Sorry, I've got some little ones here at the house. I can hear stomping around upstairs. So I want to go to my devices, Windows Enrollment, and Windows Hello for Business. And you'll see these are the default settings here. And they're going to be set to all users. And so typically, sorry about that, they're distracting upstairs. Typically for these, I'm going to assign them basically to all users. I don't believe this includes devices as well, even though the name implies it. But let's just double check that real quick. Devices at the time that they enroll. That's a great question. I'm going to have to double check on that, which this is timely. Like I said, I've been working on this. And right now, this is working. In the testing that I've been doing, this particular setting works just assigned to all users. And it appears that all of these settings are coming down. But let me do a little bit of testing on what I was working on was comparing the two. Windows Hello for Business through the account protection versus the tenant-wide settings here, simply because I want to be able to manage that, have a little bit more control over where these settings apply. And so I'm going to take that as some homework to talk about next week. Just write that down real quick. Great question. All right. Another question here. What is the best method for checking the current state of a Win32 app so that if registry keys or even the executable is deleted, it will reinstall the app? These are assigned required apps. I think I have... Yes. So one of the ways to deal with this is, again, and Johan will often reference this post. I think it's one of the, if not the most popular post here on deployment research, at least in the past it was, forcing application reinstalls. So basically, as we scroll down here, this talks a little bit about how we can do that. So basically, there's some dynamic PowerShell that has to happen here to identify a couple of GUIDs. Here, for example, we have the user object ID that we have to deal with, and we also have the app ID. So with a couple of PowerShell scripts here, you can go ahead and run these. And in this case, this should cause the apps to reevaluate and reinstall should they have been uninstalled, for example. So this may help. This would be the first thing that I would go to, I think. Dino, I'm not sure if that's the exact scenario that you're looking at, um, but I know we often reference this post for these types of reinstall scenarios. All right. No worries on the homework at all. Like I said, I mean, I'm happy to have the homework from time to time, anyways. But been working through some of the Windows Hello for Business stuff, regardless. So it happens to be very timely. I'm happy to do it, and totally makes sense on a shared tenant. Absolutely, the tenant-wide settings just aren't going to fulfill everybody's needs. All right. I apologize too. If you could give me 1 second here, I'm going to tell the kids to quiet down a little bit. All right. I am so sorry about that, everybody. So problems with well, one of the benefits of being able to do this with two people is we don't have to worry about having that silence in there. Anyways, I see a couple of questions here. Amir, thanks for joining today again. So, looking for a script to detect and force a local time zone sync on Autopilot devices. Had some success by enabling location, W32 time, and TZ auto update service, followed by W32 TM resync force command on my own device, but that doesn't seem to work when the script runs during the autopilot provisioning. I believe I might have something here. Let's see. Well, we've got the prompt. So this is only part of the question because you asked about detecting and forcing a sync. But I'll still share this anyways. Michael's got a blog post about prompting for TimeZone. Is this the one? Yeah, this might be it. And Michael's blogged about this quite a bit. TimeZone specifically, location services, which you mentioned. And at least at this time, user signing in needs to have administrator rights. So I think that this is part of the branding package that we just happen to talk about at the beginning. No, that's not going to detect. Well, these are a couple of options for setting, but really detecting is what you're looking for. Yeah, I'm not sure, Amir, that I've got a specific answer for you there. I have to do a little testing myself as well. I thought I had something, but most of what I've got here is Michael's. These are great solutions. They're just not doing the specific thing that you're asking about. So sorry about that. I'll share these still, just in case they're helpful to you or anybody else. And if I come up with a bit of a better answer, I will make sure to share it next week as well. All right, just a follow up here on Windows Hello for Business testing so far. Hybrid devices with Cloud Kerberos Trust. Setup is fine on internet only and VPN devices, but not able to actually log in with Hello after setup. KDC cert could not be validated. Interesting. Um, Interesting scenario. I would expect, like I'm sure you do, that would work after the fact, specifically because Cloud Trust is set up. Pretty straightforward configuration. And so if it's working on internet and VPN devices, I would think the login would work as well. Interesting. It's another good one to test. A lot of the testing that I have been doing up to this point is cloud native, so Entra native join Intune only. Um, but that should be 100% a supported scenario. I think. All right, I will add that. I'll add that to my testing as well. So all good on prem. All right, good to know. Should be able to test that pretty easily. So a couple of things there that we'll look at is the account protection options here, as well as hybrid with Cloud Trust, which is fantastic, by the way. When Cloud Trust came out in hybrid environments, which I'm working in fairly regularly still, um, made logging into things like network drives and that sort of thing so much easier. Better user experience for sure. All right. So good. I've got some good homework for this week, or for next week, I should say. Still have about 30 minutes, so if we've got any additional questions, I am happy to try to answer them. See if we've got anything else that I missed today. I'm excited to hear about some of the interesting sessions that came out of, or that have come out of Workplace Ninjas Summit. There was a session on OSD Cloud, a deep dive on delivery optimization, Couple of cool things there that I'm looking forward to hearing about. Looks like a fantastic conference. All right. Let's see. Okay. So Yannick's got a GitHub repo with several people contributing remediations. Yes. Might have actually shared that one. No, there's a different one that I shared a couple of weeks ago. Anthony Porter's. But where is Yannick's? I know I've got that link around here. Here we go. Remediation scripts. There we go. All right, let me share my screen again. Yes, fantastic find. So I'll share the entire repo because this is great stuff. But here is that automatic time zone detection and remediation script here. So basically we'll pop in. Check the registry keys, and then set them the way that we need to based on your location, it looks like. Fantastic stuff. Thank you very much for sharing that. Go ahead and make sure I copy this off. Yeah, since we're on topic, I will reshare too. Here we go, Anthony Porter. This was the other repository that I shared a couple of weeks ago. Anthony Porter puts this together. So a couple of other inspirations for different device compliance remediations, configuration remediations, Defender. You can see he's got these sorted by basically what they're affecting. So some fantastic stuff in both of these repos. I would definitely recommend checking them out. All right. What good online resources would I recommend for learning how to create good dynamic group management rules? Actually, this is an area where Microsoft's documentation, I've had a lot of luck with it. So here we go. So this is great documentation, I think. In here, it talks a little bit about the rule builder and how you can use it. And then also provides the syntax for different things that you can do. So here's a very simple example. If you have the department attribute populated for your users, you can create dynamic groups based on that attribute as long as it equals this thing. But it's not simply equals that you can use. We have a number of different ways that we can populate those groups. So, for example, this second one here is great. I've used this a lot of times, and once I realized you could actually do in or not in, made my expressions much easier to understand. So here, basically, you can take and check against multiple values. So if you had a number of departments, say you had sales and marketing and whatever else that you wanted in a dynamic group for users, you could do this. A couple of less than and greater than operators. Let's see. And so these are mostly around users. You can do a lot of this with devices as well. And up here at the top gives exactly what is available for these expressions. So it really depends on what you want to do as well. Department's a popular one. I've found you can also, if you have extension attributes, if you are syncing your identities from on-prem AD to Entra, and you have extension attributes that you've populated for some reason, you can use the extension attributes here. So you can do some customization on that side of things. You can go based on user principal name, email addresses, user types. You can do some interesting things here for sure. So depending on what you want to do, it really depends. But I've referenced this documentation many times, and it's helped out a lot for me. So hopefully this will help. Kind of feel like it's a little bit of a cop-out to point to the product documentation, but truly I've had a lot of good luck with this. So I'll add this in here. All right. Just a follow-up from Amir here, going to give this another shot, even though this is exactly how you were doing it. Yeah, please let us know, Amir, if this works out for you next week. All right. Got a question here from Patrick over on YouTube. I'm having problems with Windows Update for Business reports. Delivery optimization data is not displayed in the report for all clients. What are the minimum data collection settings that I need to configure? So for Windows Update for Business reports, where are my notes on this? There are, actually, you know what? We can probably just go check this out here. I am going to go here to my Windows devices and configuration. And then here, Windows Update for Business reports, processing settings. If I look in here, we have to have, there are a couple of minimum requirements. So allow commercial data pipeline has to be enabled. Allow telemetry has to be set. I have it set to full here, but basic is the minimum. So you can safely set it to basic or full. And then the allow update compliance processing, this is also a requirement. So those three. The other three that I have here are optional. Allow device name to be sent in the diagnostic data. And then these two are around surrounding the opt-in for telemetry. So there's a notification that will show up if telemetry changes. You can disable those notifications, as well as the settings in order to opt in or opt out of telemetry. You can disable those as well. Those three are optional. So it could be a number of things, I guess. These three, if you've got these three set, they should be sending data, excuse me. But something to look out for, this is brand new, so I'm not sure if it will actually show up just yet. But the new update alerts that we talked about here at the beginning, where device diagnostic data is not even being received, showing up as an alert in Windows Update for Business reports, this may be helpful. So if we scroll down here, we'll have maybe these two things. We'll have diagnostic device data not received alert, which will give you these three meanings here. Maybe you have some endpoints that are being blocked. I have run up against that myself a number of times, as have many others. Or the device itself is just doing something funky. You'll also have insufficient update connectivity alerts. And you can see all of these are available for Windows Update for Business reports. That said, if we scroll down here to the bottom, the example that they showed was actually looking at those alerts within Windows Update for Business reports. Let me see if I can just zoom in again here. So in the Overview tab, we have the ability, when we click on Total Devices down here at the bottom, we can see a Missing Devices tab that pops up in the flyout. and this will show you some of the alerts. So depending on that alert type here, that may give a little bit of something that you can go and troubleshoot. But give that a try. And yeah, if that works, Patrick would love to know if that solves the problem. Let's see if I have that actually in here. Just a moment, sorry. All right, so if we go into our Windows Update for Business reports, here, go to Total Devices, and yeah, at least in the text here that's showing up, I don't happen to have any devices that are showing up as missing, but give that a shot, and hopefully that gives a little bit more of an idea of what's going on. All right, excuse me 1 second. All right. Yeah, I see the comment here about can't wait to not see any of this cool Windows Update for Business report stuff in our shared tenant. Can't be scoped or have any RBAC without heavy shenanigans. Absolutely. It's tough. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not suggesting try this in your organization, but that's one of the reasons why I've been trying to simplify RBAC where I can, specifically for some of these reasons. It can get dicey pretty quick when you're working with log analytics for sure. Hopefully that's made a little bit easier in the future, but maybe it's just going to be something that we're expected to learn a bit more about for sure. One other place, at the very least, that you have to configure it if you want to use these things. All right. Any other questions? Still got about 15 minutes, 14 minutes as the clock switches. Yeah, some of the new Intune reports, like the distribution report, update distribution report, do support scope tags. I agree. I hope we do get more of that. So if we go over here back to our Intune Admin Center and reports, so if we go like here, we can select the different scope tags that we have. Not sure if I actually have anything that'll show up here, but oh yeah, I do. So I've got one device that is actually tagged, and you can see it show up here. as opposed to if I go to all and regenerate this report, we should see quite a few more. Yeah, so there we go. We've got 36 total devices. Awesome. Love these little improvements that we're getting here. And agreed. Hopefully we will see more of that. Any other questions? All right. Can anything be done to automagically remediate the missing devices in Windows Update for Business log analytics? Nothing I have seen. In my experience, there are a couple of different things. Either wait, which, as frustrating as that can be for something like this, has solved a lot of my missing devices. You can even see here, was this where we saw it? There are a couple of areas that will let you know, hey, it could be up to 72 hours before you see a device. But Amir, I'm sure you've come across that before and have waited longer than 72 hours, and they still didn't show up. So my next step would generally be exactly what I mentioned here: check missing devices and see what they are at least reporting up to this point. And then it's just a matter of diving into the device and seeing it. It's really a case by case basis. Some of the good common examples here were actually over on that new blog post from today, um, where you'll see incorrect diagnostic data configuration, no configuration to send the diagnostic data. So in that case, either you are missing, or the device rather is missing one of those three required settings, or they are missing all of those settings. They haven't actually received the configuration. Blocked network endpoints. So as many of you know, with the cloud services that we're interacting with, there are several endpoints on the Microsoft side that our clients have to communicate to. Those can be blocked or through proxies, for example. Firewall could be blocking them, IDS could be blocking them, DNS could not be resolving the URLs properly. I just ran into that myself last night, where I not specifically with Windows Update for Business reports, but had a VM that essentially I turned on. It communicated with Autopilot. I could sign in, but it never got past that. The enrollment never started. And it turned out the enrollment URL was not actually resolving for that particular client. So there's some troubleshooting there. And that example could also happen with Windows Update for Business reports. Minimum OS build. This is, again, these two are new ones, so you may not have had that information up until now. Minimum OS not met, just meaning that for Windows Update for Business reports, you need to be on at least this version. And then again, back to connectivity. Connectivity can cause us all sorts of problems in this cloud native world, for sure. So actually, to your question here, Amir, I'm quite excited to be getting this additional data because these are very common scenarios. So those are the two things that I would start with. One, wait. Two, check that device tab, and then see if there's anything from there. Beyond that, nothing that I've seen that will, and I love your use of automagically here. Nothing I've seen that will automagically do that. All right. Yeah, of course. Let's see. Does Windows Hello for Business have a documented list of required endpoints typical with other cloud services? I don't know if that has specifically shown up in some of the lists that I've seen. Great question. I sure hope there is. So let's see. Let's pop up. This is Intune specific, but let's see if they reference Windows Hello for Business in here. So we've got the management URL, delivery optimization, Win32 apps, Autopilot, remote help, delivery optimization again. Microsoft Store. So not there. Wonder if... So just checking out and see if I can find the Entra endpoints as well. No, there's just not as much there. Consent, that's not it. Yeah, nothing I'm finding right now, but hey, I'll add that to my Windows Hello for Business homework to see if I can find something. I'm sure it would depend on which part of it, because Cloud Trust is going to have different requirements. And then the device itself is going to need to be able to communicate with Entra. So let me just make a couple of notes on that. copy this one off as well. Awesome. Fantastic questions. All right. Got a couple more minutes left here if anybody has any last minute questions, but dang, got almost to 5:30. That's awesome. No, don't worry about stopping with the questions. That's a great one. I hadn't considered that, and hopefully I'll be able to come up with something. Questions are why we're here. We love them. And as you'll often hear Johan say, we may not always have the answer, but certainly we try to. Of course. Awesome. Well, seeing no further questions, I just want to say I thank you very much, everybody joining today and helping me hold down the fort for this hour. And I appreciate your patience while I worked through some kiddos running around here at the house. Thank you so much, everybody, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week and having Johan back with us. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon.